Welcome to Maple Leafs Man Advantage, and today I've got a special presentation. Just stepping away from my timeline going through the Toronto Maple Leafs and why they haven't won a Stanley Cup since 1967, as I am going to look at something now. I am not looking back into the 70s right now. I'm going to look at the current Toronto Maple Leafs and ask the question as to how um, they are able to advance in the playoffs and what I think will happen a little bit. It doesn't matter what I think because you got to see the games. The games got to happen. That matters a heck of a lot more. But what I think they need to do, or maybe even what Ottawa needs to do if they would like to advance as well, who they're playing. So just to get this out of the way first, certainly I hope you do like this video. If so, I'd appreciate it. Hit the thumbs up or hit like. As well, you can subscribe. I've got lots of other videos on here about the NHL, generally older stuff, going through time about the Leafs. Um, and as well, if you want to comment on anything, give your 2 cents about the current Toronto Maple Leafs, um, how you think they're going to do and stuff like that. Absolutely put it in the comments. I would appreciate that. That would be excellent. So, this is a special presentation about the 2025 playoffs first round. I hope to have 3 other videos as they advance all the way to the finals and can add, in the end, a number up to this banner here that they win the Stanley Cup. That is really all that I want. I'm just asking for one thing as a Leaf fan, and that's it, man. That's all I want. I know it's a tall ask, but anyways, this is it here. So, as I said, I'm going to ask this question. In particular, I'm going to look at this opening round and how they advance in the playoffs and can continue to win that Stanley Cup. So, yes. Now, I've written a bunch of stuff down here. Gonna go through it. Going back and look at each of the playoffs that this core four. I, I feel bad saying that because that's all you ever hear about in Toronto, and the lack of success that's been brought in the playoffs. But looking at the playoffs, that I would just say the captain, current captain Austin Matthews, has been there for those playoffs. It all started back in 2016, 17. That seems like that was just 12 days ago. It wasn't. They lost to the Washington Capitals in 6 games. The Capitals were certainly the better team, but Toronto looked good. They had elements to their game. It's like, boy, just wait till next year, man. Just wait till next year. Unfortunately, I kind of am still waiting, unfortunately. But the Leafs weren't supposed to win that series, but they won a couple of games. And then the next year, 2017-18, they lost in 7 games to the Boston Bruins. The next year, 2018-19, they lost once again in 7 games to the Boston Bruins. Definitely a broken record. 2019-20, this should be an easier way to advance. It looked like, hey, this is the ticket to the second round. It was not. They lost in 5 games to the Columbus Blue Jackets. It was a best of 5, so they only had to win 3. Columbus did it first. In 2020, 21, yet again, you would think another good chance, another good way to get to the second round. They were in the Canadian division. This was in the weird COVID year. Everything was weird in COVID. Everything. I don't want to get into that. But they were going to be facing the Montreal Canadiens. Yes, they had Carey Price, but outside of the net, the Leafs were appeared to be the superior of the 2 teams. Um, and get this, they haven't faced each other a ton of times since then. But the last time the Toronto Maple Leafs beat the Montreal Canadiens in a series in the playoffs was, anybody out there? That's right, 1967, the last time they won a Stanley Cup. So you know what happened here. Montreal won in 7 games. The Leafs were also up 3-1. and nothing happened to the team of significance after this. Personally, at the time, I was like, okay, not like the axe has to fall, but I'm like, something's got to change here, guys. You couldn't um, push through. You couldn't just win that one final game. Um, but Price played well, but um, it was on Toronto here. I think that they weren't able to win that one game. Then 2021, 22, the Leafs lost in 7 games to the Tampa Bay Lightning. Whew, the following year, 2022, 23. Okay, here we go. We're doing something different here. The Leafs are playing the Lightning again, but the Leafs win. They win the first round in 6 games. Put them out in six. Now, I've been saying this all along. I think I know why the Leafs beat them in six. I'm not saying the Leafs couldn't have beat them in seven, but um, I think a big reason why they eliminated them in 6 games is, to me, Andrei Vasilevsky was literally playing the worst hockey of his career, was hurt, and went and off and had surgery after the season was over. He was awful. He I would almost go as far as to say I haven't seen these games since that happened, so maybe I'm misremembering a little bit. He didn't even belong in the net at times. He was just letting in goals that were costing games. He shouldn't have been letting in, but they were going in, and Toronto totally pounced on it, took advantage, and beat them. And their core four were getting points. They were getting goals. It was starting to happen there. But then in the next round, they lost in 5 games to the Florida Panthers, who were obviously the better team. Um, those core four guys, other than maybe Nylander, were not getting any goals, not getting near the points that they were supposed to anymore. And then last year, they lost in 7 games to the Boston Bruins. They've lost to them 3 times in 7 games during this stretch. So in total, since 2016-17, the Leafs have a 1-8 record or series record. That is awful. That is not even close to an acceptable with the talent skill that they have on this team. Not to mention, most of these series, they were coming in and supposed to win. You can't win every series you come into as the favorite. Hockey is a great sport in that I seem to remember in the first round of every year, there's an upset somewhere that wasn't supposed to happen and does. So, where if you take perhaps like basketball, I don't think that happens near as often, anywhere close to as often as hockey. But come on, you're 1-8. That's not acceptable. You can't do that. Now, for the 2025 playoffs, they are playing. We know this is actually Thursday. So they're playing tonight. The game in the end doesn't matter. We know who's in the playoffs, who's playing who, everything like that. Um, so Toronto is going to be playing the Ottawa Senators, the Battle of Ontario, which, in my opinion, has been fairly dead since Matt Sundin retired almost. Like Toronto was bad, and then Ottawa was bad, and now they're both good, but there's not near anywhere close to the fire there used to be with back when Darcy Tucker and Chris Neal were playing. Travis Green, who's coaching Ottawa, was in Toronto. There was a lot of fire in those series, and there was a lot of hatred, or um, because to tell you the truth, I don't like the Ottawa Senators. They're one of my least favorite teams in the league. A lot of people say, "Hey, man, I always cheer for a Canadian team." I don't. I don't cheer for Ottawa. I don't cheer for Montreal. Although this year, I don't know. We'll see what happens. And I don't cheer for the Edmonton Oilers. I've never liked them either. But the rest of the Canadian teams I like. But whatever. But anyways, yes, they're playing the Ottawa Senators. So yes, the last team the Leafs beat in the playoffs was 2023 when they beat the Tampa Bay Lightning. we're going to get into our time machine here. Before that, who was it? It was the Ottawa Senators way back in 2004 when Matt Sundin was the captain. Ed Belfour was the goalie in Toronto, and the late Pat Quinn was coaching the team. It's been 21 years since these teams have faced off in the playoffs. So I might be right in saying it's been about 20 years since this uh, rivalry, what doesn't really exist now. They need to rekindle that right here, right now. I would love that. But it's been sort of dead, I think. It really hasn't been alive, in my opinion. So now in the playoffs, Toronto against Ottawa, the Leafs have a 4-0 series winning record against Ottawa, meaning Ottawa has never eliminated Toronto in the playoffs. I'm not going to say right now that is going to continue, or really this is the turning point in the series, or this is why Toronto is going to win the series, because in that record, those teams that played, absolutely none of those players are on either team, other than Travis Green is coaching Ottawa. He was there in Toronto. I don't know if that means anything at all, or if you can put any stock into that whatsoever. So, although I do remember back in the day, the Sens seemed to have a better team than Toronto. But when the playoffs came around, Toronto would always eliminate them. I seem to remember that happening um, probably more than once. Um, Now, this season, Ottawa has really known how to beat Toronto, which may not be a good sign for the Leafs. But the playoffs are different, boys and girls. It's a different animal, and I hope the Leafs are ready. But the Sens have seemed to know how to beat Toronto. Um, so I'm going to look at the Leafs and a little bit of the Senators. Really more diving into the Leafs because I think, and as a Leaf fan, I'm old enough. This usually isn't a good feeling. I feel that the Leafs can win this series. It's not going to be easy. It may go six, it may go seven, but I think the Leafs can win this series. Um, but it all starts in game one. And I'll just say right off the top, if Ottawa can win that game in Toronto, game one, I don't know. I almost feel the heat's going to be getting cranked up in Toronto a bit. Um, because this isn't the year. This has been the year for a long time, and they just keep going back to the same team. And maybe it'll work this time, but uh, the fans are ready for right now. This is what they've been waiting for a long time, not just this year. They've been waiting for the playoffs. This is where the games matter, right here, right now. So, anyways, I'm going to start with the goaltending, go to the defense, and then go to the forwards. So, with the goaltending, what do I think of the goaltending in Toronto? Um, I really like it. Um, it's been a while since I remember a really good 1-2 combo like this in Toronto. Um, that is this good. Like I remember when I first started watching Leafs, that Ken Reagan and Alan Bester, but I'm gonna say in the regular season, anyways, no, they weren't quite this good. Um, Boy, oh boy, you might have to go back to Jacques Plante and Bernie Perron, and the Leafs won absolutely no series with those guys in the net, by the way, because they were playing against like the Boston Bruins with Bobby Orr or the Montreal Canadiens, amazing teams like that they had to contend with. But I really like the goaltending. In the same breath, I will say I really hope nobody gets hurt here. Um, and both of these guys, Anthony Stolars and Joseph Wall, both of them have a history of getting hurt and getting injured. And it happens in the playoffs. Just look at last year with Joseph Wall, unable to go in game seven because of an injury. That was, it wasn't like my heart getting ripped out of my body, but it was a big knife to the gut. And Samsonov, he played well. I'll say that he played better than what happened to him being fed to the wolves at the end of the year. It wasn't his fault why the Leafs lost that series, in my opinion. Wall was magnificent in that series, but Samsonov didn't play as bad as you might think. Um, Now, I'm not really going to look at the regular season stats. What I'm going to do, I'm going to pop them up on the screen here, the stats of the playoffs of all of these players. So first up, we got Anthony Stolarz. I'm going to look at him, and I think I'm not the coach, so it doesn't matter what I think, but I think he's going to be the starter for Game One. I'm not saying he's going to be the starter for Game Two or Game Three, but he's going to be the guy in game one. I think he's earned that right. He's been solid long enough. Wall's getting back into form here at the end of the season. Um, but I'm going to look at him first. Yeah, I think he's going to be the guy in game one. He did win a Stanley Cup last year for the Florida Panthers. I was going to say Marlins. Panthers, wrong sport. Um, I excellent job there, but that was Sergei Bobrovsky. That was the goalie in Florida. Um, his career stats, and it was last year was the first time he was ever in the net in the playoffs. Um, Stolarz has played one game in the playoffs. He played just under 35 minutes, had an 824 save percentage, and a 5.17 goals against average. I'm certainly not going to say that. There you go. There is your theme. That is your rhythm. That's going to continue. No way. The guy just played over half a game. Everybody can have an off night. It doesn't matter. I think Florida might have been getting blown out of the water anyways in that game. So I think with Stolarz, it's wait and see. How is he going to do in the playoffs? Um, I'm not going to say he's going to keep playing like he is in the regular season, and I'm not going to say he's going to fall off a cliff. Let's wait. Let's see. Let's how he does in the playoffs. Now the other guy is Joseph Wall. His total numbers are for two playoff seasons. He has played in 7 games. 4 of them were starts, so 3 of them, the primary goalie or the starting goalie was taken out of the game, which that's quite a few. But he's got a 3-2 record. I seem to remember him coming in as being called off the bench, put in net, and winning a game. I think he did that last year. But he's got a 3-2 record, a really nice 933 save percentage, and a 1.78 goals against average. Great numbers. And, but in my opinion, there's still not enough games there to say that Wall will just rock through this playoff series against the Ottawa Senators, or he's going to continue on that course. There's just not enough games there for me to say, yeah, man, he's going to do it. Like a goalie I'm looking at right now in my old videos, like Bernie Perron. Uh, it was guaranteed this guy, he's the man to put in the net um, during those 2 Stanley Cup wins that they put together, the Philadelphia Flyers. But there's just not enough time here. It's a good course. It looks like he's on that path. Um, but we'll see what Wall can do. Can he continue on this path? And I certainly hope so. But the big problem in Toronto during these losses in the series, sometimes it has been goaltending. Sometimes they haven't shown up in that final game when you need your A1 game. It hasn't happened in net. That wasn't their problem last year. It wasn't the goaltending. Once again, it's just stay healthy, guys. That's really important because I think you're going to see both these guys in the playoffs. So for the Sens, they have some goaltending now in Ottawa. I work with a guy, John. That's the first thing he said when I said, "Hey, Ottawa's in the playoffs." He said, "Yeah, we got goaltending now," and he is right. You got Linus Ullmark. previously with the Boston Bruins. Now, there's almost just, I mean, there's a little bit more here than Joseph Wall here, and almost enough for me to say, hey, there might be enough there to see how he's going to do. In the playoffs, Allmark has 10 career games, 9 starts. So that's 5 more than Wall. He has a 3-6 record and 887 save percentage and a 3.59 goals against average. So I would say if Toronto comes out and scores, 4 goals in the opening game and beats Ottawa, I would say, okay, um, maybe I would be leaning a little bit more towards maybe Allmark can't get it done in the playoffs. Now, at the same time, Allmark's on a new team. He's in Ottawa. He's a big reason why they've made the playoffs for the first time in a long time. So he might be, pulling his game up and ready to play better in the playoffs. So that is a possibility as well. Um, Now, Omar, he's older than I always think he is. I'm always like, "Ah, he's like 24." He's 31 years old. So I'd almost say now's the time there, Omar. This is your contract. This is your time to go for this big run in the playoffs. So I would just say, if he continues on that path with those type of numbers in the playoffs for the Senators, to those fans, I would say you got a big question net in your net, or question mark, I'm sorry, over the head of the guy in the net for the next 3 years. But I'm not guaranteeing that's going to happen. Omar could come out and play beautifully. So we're going to see what happens. Now is the time for him to shine, I think, for sure. They also have Anton Forsberg. He's 32 years of age, so they got older goalies in Ottawa. But he's yet to play a game in the playoffs, and I think this is Allmark's net if they have to turn to Forsberg. I don't know. That may not be a good thing for Ottawa. But we'll wait and see what happens. So next, I'm going to talk about the defense. And in my opinion, to Toronto, in order to really help out where I think it's not the one problem, but a big problem with Toronto in the playoffs, they can get a big help from the defense here if they can put the puck in the net from the back end. They have difficulties doing this in the regular season, not to mention in the power play. Sometimes they play 5 forwards. So technically, that's not going to happen. Power play goals are big from the point, or some of the defensemen getting goals on the power play. But I look at 3 of these guys, and I'm going to go through. This is what I said first, and then my thoughts after saying all of these guys. These are the 3 guys I think that need to not like get 10 goals here, but like step up and put the puck in the net. First up is Jake McCabe. I really like this guy. He does have that bent nose mentality out there. I really like it. He plays with an edge, plays physical. I love that. Um, and he plays great, great tandem, him and Chris Tanev. I think McCabe's going to be ready for game one. They say he'll be ready. That's good. Tanev, I don't think he needs to change his game at all. His strength is how he plays, blocking shots, playing tight defensively. He doesn't need to change his game. I don't need goals from him. If he gets a goal, let's play off. Great, excellent, way to go. If he gets none, that's okay too, because he only had 2 in the regular season, and I wasn't expecting a whole lot more than that from him. But in saying all of that, with those pair, it's a real good shutdown pair. They're not playing the whole time in their own zone. You're going to be playing up in the offensive zone as well. And to be honest, out of McCabe, I was expecting a little more offense than he also had 2 goals. So I was expecting more than that, more than double that. Like I was expecting at least 5 or 6 goals out of McCabe. Oh, excuse me. He was hurt a couple times this year, but he still played a lot of the season. So I'm not going to lay into that. Um, but if we're going to make it to the finals, I need McCabe to get at least a couple of goals during that time frame from the back end. I need something back there so you're not just totally pressuring your forwards to score all the goals for you. I seem to remember a couple times this year there were some offensive opportunities for Jake, and he just didn't connect on them, and it didn't look good on a couple of times. Um, so, but when I took a deeper look into him and his career, um, he's actually only scored more than 5 goals once in his career. That was last year. So maybe I'm asking for something more than I should get out of Jake. And if that's the case, this may lead to a problem on your back end. We need some goals from back there. I really think, to alleviate the pressure from your forwards. So another guy up front on the back end there is Oliver Ekman Larson, or OEL. He won the cup last year with the Panthers. He played a lot of their games. He scored a couple of goals for them on their run to the playoffs, or the run to the Stanley Cup. I'm sorry. We need that from him again. I need him to get a couple of goals on the way to the finals. Um, so looking at Toronto's defense, though the checking is tighter and space is cut down, there doesn't seem to be a big weapon back there. Um, and I've been saying this for a long time. Like it's not a guarantee if you got a A1 defenseman you're going to win the Stanley Cup. No, but man, oh man, does that ever help you out a lot? It's like having a number one center. I think he would help out immensely, being able to do everything out there for you. Um, I would love it if Ekman Larson popped in a goal every series. That would be amazing. I'm actually not expecting him to do that. I'm not asking him to do that. And looking at his career, I'm going to throw some more stats up here. In the regular season, he scores 0.14 goals a game. So he was a two-time 20 goal scorer, and that actually alleviates, or not alleviates, raises that number a bit. In the playoffs, he's 0.08 goals a game. Not the same offense. And so I'm fine, but you got to do it. I think you need a couple of goals out of this guy from the back end. And yeah, we all know who the final D guy back there I'm going to talk about is. Yep, Morgan Riley. He looks like he's improving his game back there, but I find his game does that. It goes up and down through the regular season. I find he's a possible ace up the sleeve here for the Leafs and may turn into the A defenseman that they, he doesn't appear usually in the regular season. In 57 career playoff games, he's scored 11 goals. That's right around what Mitch Marner has done. He scored 4 when they made the second round 2 years ago on the back end. He has 0.7 points a game in the playoffs. That's really good. It's 0.59 in the regular season, so he's able to find that extra level and is successful in that level. I like that. He looks a lot better in the playoffs, and I like it. So, just to compare him to some other ex-Leaf defensemen who are thought to be the cream of the crop in Toronto. First, Tim Horton. While in Toronto, he was 0.39 points in the regular season. In the playoffs, he was 0.42 as well. Horton was able to bring his game up to that next level. Moria Solomon, in the regular season, he was 0.7, just what Morgan Riley is in the playoffs. He was doing that in the regular season. And in the playoffs, he was 0.61. Very close. Ian Turnbull was just a really bit better in the regular season with the points. He was 0.71. And very impressive 0.82 in the playoffs. He also was able to bring his game into that next level as well and be very successful. So, um, there we go. So, looking at Ottawa and their defensemen, you have both Jake Sanderson and Thomas Chabot. Both of them have scored more goals than any Leaf defenseman. And if they can grab a goal in this first round of the series, they may be one up on Toronto just in that stat. Maybe that's a weird stat, but offense from your defense. But I think it's important. It helps relieve pressure off of your forwards. So finally, we're going to look at the offense with the Leafs here first. And there's a game tonight, so these numbers may be a little wrong. I didn't even look at they won 4-0 against Buffalo. Yes, actually, those numbers are involved with this. Um, but I think a big problem with the Leafs, see, it's the core four, is they haven't been getting that same level or near to the same level of as offense as they've had in the regular season. If they did this in the regular season, they may not make the playoffs, or they'd be fighting for a spot where the Montreal Canadiens ended up. So for them to be successful, it's built this way, guys. You need to have that offense at the same level or nearing that same level, unless you're filled with a bunch of like Claude Lemieux or I can't even see Mikko Rantanen because he's a superstar. He does that in the regular season as well. So I don't know. You need to be able to hit near that same peak again. So I really like we have Matthew Nyes. He's got 29. He's that close to 30. Good for him. Good power forward. You got Bobby McMahon, who's got 20. And depending on how or when he plays, we also have Nick Robertson, who had 15. And he's like near the bottom of the team in ice time, I find. He's not on the ice very much, but he's got a nose for the net. So um, these the core four need other guys to step in to help to score. You can't rely on all of these guys. You're also not going to win if you do that. Um, I just say to Nyes, hopefully he's got his head up and plays a little less recklessly out there. I hate to say it, but a guy that I think of when I see him, he's a big man out there, is Eric Lindros. I know you don't have Scott Stevens out there. You can't hit like that anymore either, but he still has. He's still got popped in the head a couple of times, and it's going to keep happening. If you got to be aware of your surroundings and where you are. If he can do that, man, oh man, I really like him. I just don't want, though, saying this at the same time, them to now lean on guys like Domi, who does perform well in the playoffs. He's shown that he can do it. It's not like he dries up. He did score a goal last year in the playoffs, which is saying something because I think he had 9 during the whole season. He's got 8 this season. I don't know. I don't like Domi's shot. I don't think it's NHL caliber, to be honest. Most of the time, I've seen him take some shots. I'm like, ooh, that was nice, but most of the time, I'm like, oh boy. But I don't want to dump on Domi here, but I'm not as impressed with him as some people are. But I do like his fire and his grit, though. That's good. I like that. Got little bit of his dad in him. I like that. Or another guy, don't rely on, is Pontus Holmberg. He had 7 goals in the season, and he would dry up for like 20 games without a goal. Stuff like that. Or Scott Lawton, who's had 1 goal since coming to Toronto, and hopefully is not becoming a total trade deadline misfire. Although at times I like what I see out of him or what he brings to the table. But by the way, you got him for another year. So, first I'm going to talk about on the offense is Willie Nylander, who I think does it in the playoffs. In the regular season, Willie has a zero point 0.9 points per game. In the playoffs, it's 0.8. That's very close. Um, so, Willie can find this next level, or the game he plays doesn't need to change that much because I don't see anything much different out of him in the playoffs than I see in the regular season. So it's effective still in the playoffs, his game. Last year he had 3 goals in 4 games against the Bruins. In total, he's got 20 goals in 53 games in the playoffs. So Don Tavares, he gets 0.94 points per game in the regular season. In the playoffs, 0.63. That's a slide off, guys. His points drop when he gets to the playoffs. I remember him scoring a hat trick against Tampa Bay a couple of years ago. And I think he had a very good that series against Tampa Bay. But last season he had 1 goal in 7 games against the Bruins. For the Leafs, he has 12 goals in 38 games. He's also a -9 out there as well. So I don't know. There's a rhythm there, guys. Can Tavares break out of that? Mitch Marner got his 100 points this season. Way to go! I think he's only the fourth Leaf to do it. Others were Daryl Sittler, Doug Gilmore, and Austin Matthews. I think those are only the three. Let me know if I'm wrong. But he's an incredible 1.13 points per game in the regular season. In the playoffs, he is a 0.88. Last season, he had 3 points. I'm saying 7 games. I don't think he played 7 games. I think he played five. I wrote that down wrong. But in total, yeah, no, sorry, that is right. Mitch, I'm thinking of Austin Matthews. That is Mitch Marner. 3 points in 7 games against the Bruins last year. In total, he has 11 goals in 57 games, or 50 points in 57 games as a Leaf in the playoffs. And I'm not saying that's bad. Those are bad numbers. Those are good. But we need better than good out of Marner. We need more than that. Unfortunately, this is how teams are built now. We need more than that out of you as well, Mitch. Unfortunately. And finally, we have Austin Matthews. He has 1.16 points per game in the regular season. In the playoffs, these are very similar to Marner, both these guys. He's 0.87 in the regular season. If Austin played 82 games, he would score 52 goals. He'd be a 50 goal scorer. In the playoffs, when you compare those numbers, he'd have 34. That's not the same prowess. That's not the same player. Austin has 23 goals in the playoffs in 55 games. Last year, he had 1 goal in the playoffs after scoring 69 in the regular season in 5 games against the Bruins. I got you, sir. He's not the first guy to play hurt in the playoffs. So, anyways, personally, in my opinion, out of the four of these guys are not putting the puck in the net enough to succeed as a team. And I'm not asking for you to go and score 2 goals a game, everybody here. But maybe if you scored two more goals a series or um, something like that, that would more than make the difference. And you would have been successful in some of these series, and you wouldn't be laughed at as usually the first round exit in the playoffs. So the Sens, when I look at them, they perhaps have an ace up their sleeve in as well in Brady Kachuk. We are going to see how this works out. He's the captain of the Sens, plays very different than what I remember of the superstars playing it for the Ottawa Senators during the Daniel Alfredson era. Very different. He plays like his dad, Keith Kachuk. This will be Brady's first kick at the can in the playoffs, which is interesting because Matthew, his brother, won a Stanley Cup last year, and Brady hasn't even been in the playoffs yet. Um, but Toronto, you got to know where this guy is. You got to make it difficult for him right as he steps on the ice. Let's make it tough on this guy. Be on him, give him no space, know where he is at all times. If not, Brady perhaps can be a difference maker in this series, and I don't want that. I don't want Ottawa to have a difference maker here in this series, or it could be game over for the Leafs. So, in addition, a word to the Sens on how to beat the Leafs in the playoffs. I believe, and to be honest, it is a real recipe on how you can beat a lot of teams. This is how great teams play. But forecheck hard, play the body, and cut down the space. Don't let these guys float around or give them all this area to wheel and weave out there. The Leafs have got skill. They love that when you give them that space. I find in the past in the playoffs, the Leafs have a very hard time succeeding in that type of environment. Just look at the Florida series a couple of years ago. They put them out in five, and that's exactly how Florida plays. Now, perhaps it may be different. We have a different coach behind the bench in Toronto who loved to play hard. He got into a lot of tussles as a hockey player, and that's Craig Berube. He got into a lot of fights, and penalty minute wise, I think he's in the top five all time in the NHL. Um, And the Leafs play offensively very different than they did under Sheldon Keefe. And there's more of a play the body style of play going on with Berube as well. But I think the Sens could play this way well as well. They've shown that against Toronto. Um, but we'll see how much of a difference maker perhaps Berube can be behind Toronto's bench in this series. For now, looking at the Leafs, use your skill. That's what you got. That's one of your primary strengths. But understand that space is going to be cut down. So you're going to need to find another way to score out there than what has worked in the regular season. And hopefully these guys can know this by now. They've been through a few playoff series. Um, you also need to, as I've already like pounded home on, you need to score at that clip, guys. Unless you have Holmberg or Domi that turn into Mike Bossy, which I'm sorry, that's not going to happen. Um, you are the guys that need to make it happen. Some of the players here, you need to toughen up a bit. Work even harder for that loose puck. This is the playoffs. You have to work hard for every puck. Stay on your man defensively, and I think in doing so, and sticking to this strategy, the game may bounce in your favor. With some of the Sens needing to know the playoff grind a little bit, and you guys in total should have a bit of an up on the Senators in that regard. And hopefully that is what happens. Now, another thing I'm going to talk about is the special teams. Boy, oh boy. Whew, times the power play worked well for the Leafs in the playoffs during this stretch was 2017-18 against the Bruins when they had 4 power play goals in 7 games. James Van Riemsdyk, if you remember him, he had 3 of them, and they were working on a 26.7% clip. Also, 2 years ago, 2023, when they made the second round, they had 8 power play goals in 11 games. Nylander and Ryan Riley had a pair each. They were working on a 25% power play rating. Now, 6 of those goals were in the first round. These were the only times during this run the power play percentage was above 20%. Now, when was the power play just not working? How about 2021 when they lost to the Habs in 7 games? They had 3 power play goals in the 7 games, but boy, oh boy, did they ever have opportunities, and they only had a 13% rating. The following season, when they lost to the Lightning, they had 4 power play goals in the 7 games, and they had a 14.3% rating. The worst of the worst, though, was last year by a fair margin when they lost to the Bruins in 7 games. So even if you just scored another power play goal or two during the series, your power play rating even wouldn't be that great, but you would have gone on to the second round, I'm pretty sure. Um, boy, the power play had 1 goal. John Tavares was the one who got it, and they had a miserable 4.8% rating. Awful. Now, how about the other side of the coin, the penalty killing? In 2020, when they lost to the Columbus Blue Jackets, couldn't get any better. They still lost to them, but they had a 100% penalty kill rating. Terrific. The following season, in 2021, when they lost to the Lightning, they had an 84.2% kill rate. Excellent. Now, times when it was awful. 2018, when they lost to the Bruins, they had a brutal 66.7%. The following season, when they lost to the Bruins again, they had a 56.3% kill rate. And maybe it's just the Bruins that do this to the Leafs because the third time was also against the Bruins. Last year, they had a 64.7% kill rate. So last season, their power play was awful and their penalty killing was awful. And you lost in 7 games. Oh, like that is why they lost. It was the special teams. So, Toronto needs to play well on both ends of the puck here for the special teams. You need to get the power play goals. You also need to kill that man advantage when the opposition gets it to keep the puck out of your net. You need to do it, or you're really you're going to be behind the 8 ball. So looking at records all time for the playoffs with the Leafs, this is interesting. George Armstrong, he leads away with 110 games played. Back when he played, there were two rounds or three, but when there were three, I don't think he ever got out of the first round. So that's a lot. He still has that record. Goals for in second place, Dave Keon and Matt Sundin, both of them have 32. First all time, Wendell Clark, he's got 34. Currently, Austin Matthews is in 11th with 23 assists. Number three is Mitch Marner, who has 39 in 57 games. Well, maybe I'm coming on too strong here for Mitch. Maybe he's doing what he should. I don't think so. Daryl Sittler had 40 in 64 games, but he also had like 20 something goals. So he had 5 goals in a game against the Philadelphia Flyers in the playoffs. So no, I think Marner needs to bring his game up in the playoffs. And tops is Doug Gilmour, who was a monster in the playoffs. He had 60 assists in just 52 games. Amazing. Currently in 12th um, place. Um, oh, sorry, points. I jumped ahead there. Points. Second is Sundin with 70. Gilmore is tops with 77. He did that in just 52 games. And currently in 12th is Marner, who's got 50 in 57 games. So penalty minutes. In second place, Ty is Ty Domi and Wendell Clark, who also leads in goals, but he has 183 penalty minutes and tops all time. Shouldn't be a surprise. Tiger Williams, he's got 240. He did that in just 44 games. And then in that Turk Broda, wow. Never seen him play, but he played 101 games. They had 2 rounds back then, guys, when he played. He has the most wins as a goalie for the Leafs with 60 and shutouts with 13 in the playoffs. Excellent job there. So there you go. We're going to see how this works out for the Leafs. I'm trying not to end this negatively as I'm just sort of like, oh, you need to do this better. But I think the Leafs are going to come out on top. I think they're going to beat the Senators and get into that second round. Um, but after the season, though, John Tavares, Mitch Marner up for new contracts. Everybody's saying, hey, let's sign these guys. Hey, let's sign these guys. We're not as good without them. We're not as good without them. Um, uh, okay. Um, and I'm not throwing it all on these guys as to why you not been successful. The only reason in the playoffs is these guys, but that'll be quite the conundrum you're in if you are knocked out of the first round or knocked out of the second round. You've got all these same guys here, and now you're handing out more contracts to these guys to come back to Toronto, and you have had really no success with these guys or success that you believe you should be getting because of well, they're first in the Atlantic Division now. They're first. That should equate to something in the playoffs. That should equate to a long playoff run. That at least means the semifinals, in my opinion. Um, but I just want to say too, I despise contracts that are longer than 5 years. I'm old, I guess, but luckily I'm not here to talk about Vladimir Guerrero Jr.'s 14-year contract and what that'll look like at the end. But if they won the World Series in Toronto, I don't know, maybe you can say, well, whatever, we won it all. So, anyways, that's it. That's the 2025 Leafs in the playoffs. My 2 cents on the matter, how I think they do, what they think they may need to do to perform well. But, anyways, can't wait to see them in the playoffs and hopefully they do well. And don't forget, guys, when you're watching, go Leafs, go.